But two huge, innovative, validated features. 2 years running, we were running this glove out to some of the best catchers in the country. So there's a lot of things that can go on in your head. But she used to talk about, like, I'd go to the beach and I'd just listen to the waves, and I just, it was her calming place.
Yeah.
So she has a small tattoo. We were like, hey, you want to use that logo? From there, I was like, hey, make waves, right? Like, don't be afraid to make some waves. Like, change things up. And I think this glove with the innovation, like, hey, it's making waves in the industry. Her line of product is making waves in the industry.
So explain to me why you shouldn't just be, well, I have an old baseball mitt to catch my daughter. I'm going to use that. Why should we maybe think a little bit more about what we're using to catch? All right, welcome back to the Beyond the Glove podcast presented by JustGloves. As always, I am your host, Ben Loafman, and today we're following up on an episode that we did earlier with Scott Bilodeau, the VP of Sales, Marketing, and Product Line Strategy for All-Star Sporting Goods. Last episode, we obviously honed in on catcher's mitts with us interviewing Scott from All-Star, but we attacked it directly from the baseball side. And All-Star is very proud of their fast pitch line as well. So we're going to switch things up on this episode, and we're going to look at the catcher's mitts again, but specifically we're going to be going from the fast pitch softball angle. So Scott, for you, thank you for joining us again, obviously. But I know that fast pitch is close to your heart because you've had 3 daughters who have played or are currently playing softball right now. And you've been more than just the supportive dad. You've also coached. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So the oldest one's 25, played all through college. The middle one is in the throes of high school as a junior right now, still plays on our high school team. And then the youngest one is named after a baseball player, Maris. But she is in the thick of it at 12U, and
Okay.
I've coached all 3 of them pretty much through. They're 12 or 12U or 14U years, and then still just being at ballparks all the time with them. So yes, it is. I'm not just the Monday through Friday softball guy or the dad on the sidelines. I am the dad, like, coaching, and so it is. I take it very personal. So yes, thank you.
Okay. So you mentioned your youngest daughter's name. Her name is Maris. And if anybody listened to the last episode, Scott is a big Boston Red Sox fan, with All-Star being from New England and that region. How did she get the name Maris? If that's a famous New York Yankees player.
Yeah, well, couldn't get anything to tie into Ted Williams, Carl Yastrzemski, or Nomar, who are my favorite guys growing up as a fan, Jim Rice or whatever. So, and Maris was cool. The Roger Maris name came up a lot in the late '90s, and then all these home run chases since, right? Like the authenticity around Roger Maris's 61 versus all the other stuff. Over the years. So my wife was gracious enough to allow me that opportunity to name our youngest one Maris. So, and she hits like Roger Maris, I can tell you that right now.
Nice.
She hits some bombs. She doesn't catch, but she hits some bombs.
Nice. That's hilarious. So you kind of mentioned, so she doesn't catch, but just interesting with you recently joining on the All-Star team. Have any of your daughters, have any of them caught? Or they have? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. So my oldest one, Dakota, she wound up being a middle infielder at college and whatnot, but she caught a little bit. She was an emergency catcher for us.
Okay.
Just highly athletic kid and really good. Can't stand people who talk about their kids, but
it's okay.
Good 6 inches between her ears on the field. Sophie, my middle one, super fast, so she plays a lot of outfield, but super quick twitch too. And like when she was younger, she would catch.
Okay.
And because she was the only one that was able to react quick enough to the pitchers. So we have pictures of them all, even Maris in catcher's gear. Maris obviously is, she'll be on a couple of our boxes too here at All Star in our catcher's gear, and she could play the role if she needed to.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. So, and that's interesting. So you're talking about it. You mentioned it earlier. So you have coached a little bit as well. And a lot of time, I think when men think about coaching a bat and ball sport, they immediately go to baseball. But it sounds like it's been super fruitful for you coaching the fast pitch. And what's an aspect, whether you would say different or better even, that people don't think about that like softball offers that maybe isn't offered in baseball.
Yeah, so speed of play really is the only differentiator to me. Having played a little bit, I played in college and stuff, but that's mid-tier at best level. When I was fortunate enough to go down to Alabama and watch the University of Alabama play, and really had my eyes open to wow.
Alabama fast pitch.
Right? Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. Coach Murph down there, a lot of great coaches out there, and he is my gold standard. Tony Baldwin at Georgia's another one. Coach Tarr at Washington, another like high standard of excellence. And there's a lot of awesome coaches. A lot of them I haven't been able to meet, but those three. But Murph was my first, and he gave me some great advice. He was like, they're all athletes at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Learn the rules, understand the rule differences between baseball and softball. But other than that, coach them the same way because they're athletes. Train them like athletes, and they'll be fine. And then, to your question, is really just speed. Like the game is just quicker, and ESPN does an awesome job in all their sports science like tidbits that they throw out there. Yeah. And they did one time where you're talking about, this 65-mile-an-hour pitch from basically 43, which is really like ends up being after the pitcher strides 35 feet away. These kids are like 6 feet tall pitching. They're extending out of the circle, out of the pitcher's circle. Like reaction matters. And like the reaction time of a batter in softball is faster. It needs to be faster and quicker than a batter seeing a 100-mile-an-hour pitch in baseball. Like and then the planes of the way the balls are coming is just different. So speed matters the most, I think, and that's what makes it exciting for me. I'm a small guy. I wasn't this power guy that hit bombs all the time. You had to have high IQ, and you had to be quick and fast. And I don't know about how high IQ I am, but I was pretty quick and fast.
There you go. Well, I think anybody kind of relates, like, speed. The game's faster. You got to be fast. Everybody's attracted to that. Yeah. So, and like you said, ESPN, when they do the College World Series, it's a fantastic production. So,
yeah, the next level.
Yeah. So nice. And so speaking about with like the coaching, you got to put in that extra effort, like Coach Murph said, to knowing the rules and the differences in the game. And All-Star has put that thought into how they've created their fast pitch catchers gear, specifically for us being JustGloves, the mitt side. And I do think that there is one mitt that is kind of at All-Star, kind of shining above the rest right now for fast pitch softball. Would you agree with that?
Undoubtedly.
So we got the Paige Halstead fast pitch glove here, PHX. Is that the code name or the code name for it? Nice. So this glove right here, it's pretty awesome. It's Paige Halstead. She's kind of become the flag bearer for fast pitch softball at All-Star. Is that right?
Yeah. So we have a full ambassador team underneath her, which is rapidly growing. But yeah, Paige is the flagship for us. Great person. Her resume speaks volumes, right? National champion at UCLA. She was one of the most sought-after recruits before she went to UCLA, was on Team USA, played Athletes Unlimited professionally, and she's still actively involved in the game today, through her facility out in SoCal at EM Sports, speed training and speed and fitness. It's, basically like an IMG on the West Coast. And yeah, she's a special girl, and in the ethos of All-Star, she is very humble and very soft-spoken and very kind. And we just did an event somewhere this past weekend, and this little girl and Paige is 6'1".
Oh, right.
I mean,
wow.
She is an athlete, an absolute athlete, and we had this little girl come in who might have been 7 years old, 8 years old, just this little girl, and she's looking up to her. Her name was Paige, and literally, Paige didn't just bend over to say hi. She got down on her knees to be eye level with the girl, and that, I think, in that moment when I saw that, I'm like, this is just, and I've known it for a long time. We've been together for 3 years now, Paige and I, through this partnership with All-Star, and she is just a next level human being. So,
nice.
Yep.
And so when we kind of mentioned this in our previous episode where we talked about baseball, but your guys' one of your owners, Stan Yurga Jr., he has mentioned that he loves players that are going to put like that extra thought into their gear, maybe someone who tweaks it. And I think for you guys, if you're going to find a player that's going to represent you guys, that's a must-have. And I would imagine that Paige is probably doing that if you guys are willing to bring her on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we get that all on the baseball side, as we talked about earlier too. And, you know, some of the things that we first sat down with Paige in the fall of 2021. Out in Arizona, we met for breakfast, and she was awesome. Stan brought his huge bag of all his equipment, his gear, and we get CADs, and we get all this thing of like thoughts and, hey, what do you like? What, most importantly, what did you not like, right? Like she obviously had a competitor's brand of product when she played at UCLA, and she was able to tell us the things that she liked and able to obviously tell us things that she didn't like about her gear. But then when it really specifically came to the glove, you know, she wouldn't use the brand of the glove because she did not like it. And she would get flack and grief and have to cover her logos and all that kind of stuff. But then there were a lot of things that we learned that she didn't like about her glove, but it just wasn't an option for her. As tall as she is and as big, as strong of an athlete as Paige is, I mean, she's very lean and slender, and you know, her hands aren't massive, and they're lean. Her hands are thin, and she would talk about things like, I had to always constantly adjust my every pitch. You know, she's catching Rachel Garcia in college. You know, I mean, Rachel's on Team USA now, so what does that tell you? How good of an athlete she was, and you know, national championship pitcher. You know, every pitch she'd have to adjust her glove and tighten her glove because the current strapping system, wrist closure, that's what the industry knows. It doesn't know anything different, or doesn't use or apply anything different. So she talked about that. And then she talked about, you know, sometimes like I need more of a baggy pocket. And I want to just be able to snag the ball because it didn't go where it was supposed to go. And I've got less reaction time than a 100-mile-an-hour pitch, right? If I'm a baseball catcher. So I just need to throw my glove out there and hope the ball doesn't pop out and pop off. So the ability to have an adjustable pocket would be something really that I wish I could have. And when she said that, Stan went like, oh, like when Veritek had to step in on a hot moment and catch Wakefield as a catcher because they had traded Doug Mirabelli and all this kind of story. But he had this industry knowledge of like, I've dealt with this on the baseball side. How can we apply it? And Tech used to like have this adjustable. He created it on his glove. We never went to market with it. But but it was a validating moment when Paige said, I wish I had this pocket that could adjust in game, or maybe pitcher to pitcher, because this pitcher doesn't throw hard, but she's got a massive spin rate, and I need to snag balls. And it also helps the break-in process. So getting that insight from her, someone who wanted to give that feedback of, as opposed to, oh yeah, that looks cool, I'll use it. Like there's a lot of that goes on in this industry. You know, armchair quarterback. Oh no, I don't like that. Like she wanted to be actively involved in all of her gear and what it was, what it looked like, and specifically her glove, because you know, gear is gear, and you do perform in it, but like you receive the ball in your glove, right? So she was very instrumental in talking through us on the glove. You know, the finger hood, like nobody else has that. And she was like, that's important to have. And sure enough, we go, after getting her stuff done, we bring it to all these other kids, and they're like, that is so cool, that's great, you know? So yeah, actively involved, and she still is. Very much has no problem giving us feedback.
Well, Scott, you're a skilled interviewee because you segued perfectly right into Paige's glove here. Pick it up for all those watching on YouTube. So Scott had mentioned two of her big complaints were having to adjust the glove. We'll just go with the first one. She had to adjust the sizing of her wrist strap every time that she caught the ball with her former mitt. So explain, Scott, how you guys have corrected that with the Paige Halstead PHX model.
Yeah, so if you can't see it on the camera, we essentially partnered with a company called GloveLocks, which ironically, the owner of the company created these glove locks for your pinky and your thumb loop areas to secure them down because he was a catcher. And his glove would stretch out specifically on his thumb, and he would get wrung on the inside because his thumb would just start to move up and away from the back felt of this thumb area, right? And you're constantly catching the ball here. I took a look at like the old style gloves, and I'm not a huge collector. That's not fully true, but like I'm a collector of old stuff. Baseball stuff, and button style gloves were the way gloves used to be. Like this strap here on the top used to go over and button. And then when it got too loose, you would cut another piece of leather, hole in the leather
and just pull it
and kind of like your belt buckle, right? Like, oh, you get it stretched out. Hopefully you don't go the other way. But, you know, that led me to be like, okay, if I do that, because currently the way a glove is constructed, this strap goes underneath. So it caps out as to how much you can possibly tighten it.
Yeah.
Because it's underneath this leather here.
Okay.
So you can't get this thing all the way to flat.
Okay.
I mean, at some point, you don't need to get to zero, but that hole opening, and a lot of other glove companies do different versions of it, but they cap out.
Yeah.
This GloveLock, this overlay, doesn't allow it to cap out. So that's number one. Like it just allows a much smaller closure for a female's hand. And then it also still allows you a much wider range. We have a wider range than anybody else in the industry from how tight it can get to how loose it can get and still be on your hand because the closure goes over on the top.
Okay.
So that was, that was one way to solve the problem, but then how do you secure it? And we were like, does the player really want to tighten it? Like how do you preset it for somebody, who makes that purchase and know that it's the right purchase? Well, you can't. So then that's when I took a look at these GloveLocks and I said, how strong and secure are these locks? So worked with the owner of the company there. We kind of got an exclusive arrangement together and we worked on a bunch of designs and we came up with this locking system here. And, if you purchase the glove or you go online, you can see the videos, the QR code video of how it closes and how it secures. But the most important thing is like, how tight does it stay in between innings? And I field tested it, Paige field tested it. We had a bunch of players from Gear Up Catching in Arizona, which is a very high elite premier travel, a training program for catchers, like travel ball catchers, run by Aaron White out in the Phoenix area. And, they all field tested it for me and they're like, this glove is great. It never moves on my hand.
Okay.
And for a catcher, you don't want the sweep tag and then all of a sudden your glove goes flying, right? You don't want to snag a ball and because you had to feel like overextend for a ball, the glove comes off your hand. You want the glove secure in your hand. And through a few iterations of this GloveLock, like it works. Yeah. So the girl, you set it, you snug it up once, and in the beginning it takes a little tweak of like, I'm left-handed and I can do this on a righty glove. You pull, you push these GloveLocks tight, and then you learn like, oh, all I can do is flip it like that to get it off and out. Yeah. Easy. But so like anything, you just quickly learn how to do it and it stays secure on your hand. So GloveLocks were a big thing there first.
So cool. So that was Paige's fix number one. Fix number two you mentioned was she wanted a pocket that could go ahead and adjust based upon her preferences. Is that right?
Yeah. So first she was a very big proponent of the H-Web pocket because it's lighter weight.
Okay. And that's pretty different from baseball, right? Baseball is mostly solid pockets,
Yeah,
right?
correct. They're like two pieces, but they're kind of solid pockets. And I don't know if it's speed, size of the ball, right? The size of the ball and the softball is obviously bigger, so it's securing more mass or whatnot. For her, she was just a huge proponent of H-Web, so that's what we went with. And we felt like this would be the best route to make a pocket adjustable, because if it's closed, how do you really adjust it? But traditionally speaking, companies would use one piece of rawhide, from an economic standpoint to lace their pocket, right? You tie it down low, and you might have two, but you're still tying them and securing them in a way that you can't adjust essentially the center area, which is kind of like, that's where the belly of the ball kind of lands. I mean, you get it in the pocket down here too. Yeah. But you're not catching it full on center in the pocket. You're catching it somewhat in the web. So our adjustable pocket system, basically what we did is we ran individual pieces of rawhide. It's proprietary to us now, but like you ran individual pieces of rawhide, so you could essentially tighten the glove if you want to tighten it. It comes loose. It comes preset loose. So if you've got a fastball pitcher, right, somebody just throwing hard and doesn't have a lot of movement, just throws hard, might be rise balls, but just straight speed and power, like you get a loud pop, right? You get a real loud pop, And the pocket can pop too, or you can just lock these laces into where you want them. You can tie them down and secure them.
Yeah.
Or we've seen, and a lot of the feedback from our ambassadors is, I actually like to leave it loose like this and let the pocket kind of work itself. Like it's almost like it snags the fastball, and now you can kind of see like the pocket flared out a little bit. And that just creates that baskety, I don't like lacrosse net type feel of a broken in glove, even when the glove is brand new. So it's faster to break in, a little bit quicker to break in, I should say. And the web still secures the ball.
Yeah.
So that was that honestly for me, and this is where, when you got to get the validated feedback. Like when we were first creating all these things, I was like, okay, that's going to be like a very important aspect of this glove, and it is. But everything the girls talk about is the value of this closure.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is becomes one of those aha moments, and they're like, oh, wow, what a difference. And then if they were to try a competitor glove and they don't have that, then I think you recognize it. But two huge, innovative, validated features. 2 years running, we were running this glove out to some of the best catchers in the country out in Arizona. We have partnerships. We mentioned the ambassadors, right? And very fortunate enough to have Allie Shipman and Marley Giles. Allie Shipman, one of the best catchers in the history of NCAA, played at Alabama. Like, she was one of our athletes last year, field testing our product, giving us the feedback. Marley Giles, same thing, field testing. She's the catcher at Alabama now.
Okay.
Testing the product. Paige, testing the product. All the athletes at EM, testing the product. All the athletes at Gear Up Catching in Arizona, testing the product. We have a couple others. Ashley Riley in Colorado, like she was a catcher at Florida, validating the product. So, it took us 2 years to bring it to market to get it right. But it has done wonders for us in this space because we are known as the best premier mitt in the baseball side. We're a newbie kind of in the softball side. And so we're really, really proud of this glove. And, the one thing that Paige will tell you is everybody asks her what the wave logo means and represents. Yeah. And, it's a very emotional thing for her. It's a motivating thing for her. She talks a lot about it on social. Yeah. About like, sometimes felt a little overwhelming to be a catcher at UCLA, and she's not a loud, boisterous, megaphony type of personality. She's very quiet, very calm, very soft-spoken. And that's sometimes hard to be if you're going to be a catcher's leader of the whole team. I mean, they're the straw that stirs the drink a lot of times.
Quarterback on the baseball field.
Yeah, right. And so there's a lot of things that can go on in your head. But she used to talk about, like, I'd go to the beach and I'd just listen to the waves, and I just, it was her calming place. Yeah. So she has a small tattoo on her ankle or whatever, and we were like, hey, you want to use that logo as your logo on your? She has on her website too, and I was like, we can certainly do that. So that's where that came from, and from there, I was like, hey, make waves, right? Like, don't be afraid to make some waves. Like, change things up. And I think this glove with the innovation, like, hey, it's making waves in the industry. Her line of product is making waves in the industry. There's a lot of great product out there. We feel really good and really comfortable about us being the best product in the space, and we feel super proud of this glove and what that means in the space. It's truly a professional level mitt. A little teaser for everybody. Like, we're excited to actually come out with a youth version, travel mitt here soon. There we go. For that younger kid that's a little bit faster to break in than this model. I mean, this is a pro level mitt designed for elite college players, high school players, college players. We got Jordan Roberts from Athletes Unlimited who uses it now professionally. A couple other catchers professionally lined up to use it. Some Olympic future teams, in the gear and using the gloves. So we're proud of that glove and proud of the youth version that will be coming soon too.
Nice. That's exciting. Hear that coming for just get that same quality of detail, but even for the younger fast pitch lady that's playing, that would be good for you guys. And you had mentioned a little bit earlier when you were describing Paige's, you had mentioned when, adjusting the pocket, being able to get that sound that you want. The big, and this is something that you've educated me on as we've kind of grown a relationship, is the importance. I mean, this is probably on the baseball and the fast pitch side. And I think the coaches maybe don't always recognize how important that sound is for the pitcher when a catcher is receiving the ball.
Yes.
And I thought that this would be interesting for any of those fathers listening. So when you think about catching your daughter and you're receiving the fast pitch softball, my initial thought was always like, dude, if you have an old baseball catcher's mitt, just use the old baseball catcher's mitt. A mitt is a mitt is a mitt, and kind of that mindset. And I remember your response to me. It was, you were very kind, but it was like, yeah, that's wrong. And I was like, oh, dang. So explain to me why you shouldn't just be, well, I have an old baseball mitt to catch my daughter, I'm going to use that. Why should we maybe think a little bit more about what we're using to catch?
Yeah, so I would even peel it back. And as you know, as I mentioned, I coach a lot. I've been coaching a long time on the softball side. One of the things I learned was sports psychology around a baseball player. So I coached a lot of baseball for a lot of years before I started coaching softball. All three of my daughters played baseball before softball.
Yeah.
And there is a psychological difference between a male athlete and a female athlete. Okay. One needs affirmation. They need affirmation in different ways. One of them is, they gotta play good to feel good.
Yeah. That's
a boy.
Okay.
And then the female athlete needs to feel good to play good.
Okay.
So let's keep that in mindset, right? When it comes to softball.
Yeah.
And a female pitcher versus a baseball player and a baseball pitcher. They all got to warm up pregame. Mm-hmm. And of course, the dads they're probably, if they don't even have a catcher's mitt, they're just bringing their old glove, right? And they're thinking, oh, how hard are they throwing? I can catch it with a real glove. That's not the point. Like, your real glove doesn't pop, doesn't make that loud snap.
Yeah.
And if you think of the affirmation aspect of it, like psychologically, you want to get that pitcher in the right mindset, that she is feeling like Montana Fouts in the circle, greatest pitcher of all time, in my opinion, by the way.
All right.
For Tana. You want them feeling like a rock star in that circle. So having a mitt that is going to be loud and pop, and having a softball mitt that has a bigger pocket, it's designed to catch a 12-inch ball, that matters. Like, receiving that ball the right way matters. And, if you're an athlete who has played or caught or whatever, you can kind of frame up the ball the right way, and you can feel it and hear that pop. And, there's a process and a reason we don't put a lot of branding on the inside of our gloves.
Okay.
Because that creates depth, into the pocket, as opposed to leather on leather.
Okay.
Leather on leather is, that's that bang, that loud snap. And none of the All-Star mitts, if you look, have anything really in the center. We put a very teeny tiny wave logo up there.
Yeah.
And that kind of got looked at me like, why'd you do that? And we did it just because it's a cool look. And they were like, we don't do that in our gloves normally. So it was an affirmation moment, so we left it there. But leather on leather, it matters. So I strongly recommend, and it doesn't have to be obviously a $300 pro catcher's mitt, but it should be a fast pitch mitt because it's a bigger pocket. It's wider. You're going to have the opportunity to get that 10-inch, 11-inch, 12-inch ball, no matter if they're playing 8U, 10U, 12U, or whatever, to get leather on leather in the pocket. They hear that. What do you think? I mean, anytime you hear a pocket snap loud, right? Throwing hard.
Yeah, that's right.
And you might not be. You might not be, but if you feel like, ooh, that one had a little more giddy up on it. So, you're just pumping your pitcher up, making them feel good, And I specifically talk to my catchers a lot about that. Like, the warm-up is for you as a catcher, sure, but it's for them. It's to get them in the right mindset. So you should be doing that all the time, all the time.
Nice. That is pretty cool. And then I think if if the dad, he's catching his daughter, he's not ready to invest in another glove. You had mentioned as well, I think, that if there was going to be a next best alternative, I think a first base mitt would work as well, because you're able to open it wider and create more of that flat surface to catch the softball, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
And it's flat. It's not fingered.
Okay, yeah.
That's the biggest difference. A regular glove is fingered.
Okay.
Right? These mitts are not. They're mitts. Like, it's all flat and smooth in here. You want to get that loud noise? First baseman mitt. Look, there's a lot of Marshall University right now. Their coach requires their catchers to use a first baseman's mitt.
Really?
UCLA won the national championship in 2011. Great friend of mine, Julie Tobiansen. She was a third baseman there. Julie Burney at the time. Uh-huh. She was their third baseman, but she's on a poster that I still have to this day for my daughters. Uh-huh. Thank you, Julie, for signing that. Like, their catcher, I think it was Megan Langenfield, or maybe she was first. Anyways, their catcher is in a first baseman's mitt. So it's a great alternative. Nice. Great alternative.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate this conversation on the Beyond the Glove podcast. We don't get enough exposure to the fast pitch side. So I really appreciate you shedding that light and just seeing there is so much thought behind what is going into this mitt. I think that's really neat. For those of you who are listening to Beyond the Glove, you guys are enjoying the podcast, you want to find out how to help, definitely just tell our podcast word of mouth about how much you like it. Let other people know. And then if you'd be willing to, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Also, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. Until next time, see you guys.